Hello, this is Heather Gates, and I welcome you to the Stand in the And podcast, where we have honest conversations about the messy complexity of the human experience, where we get stuck, and how we find forward in the and of it all where many things are true at once. This podcast is designed especially for those of us who want to make things more beautiful and better for everyone, and sometimes need reminding that we are human too. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the Stand in the And podcast, everybody. I'm glad you're here so that you can join me and my friend and fellow public health enthusiast, Rod Jenkins, in some pondering today. Rod, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always good to be with you, Heather.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here. Rod, before we get started, I would like to invite you to introduce yourself to folks in whatever way feels meaningful to you.
Rod Jenkins, native of Charleston, South Carolina, better known as the best city in this side of heaven. Father of two, Rodney Jr., affectionately known as Roddy, and Isabella LaRue, affectionately known as Bella. Husband to Sharita of some 20 plus years. Happily married to her and continuing to live life, but dedicated public healther as the public health director for Durham, North Carolina, Bull City. Try to represent as much as I can, but overall, just a very happy person, and that happiness has come through a lot of adversity. But at the same time, there's so much to be happy and joyful about.
Well, that was just a beautiful, not only intro, but transition into our content. You're making my job easy today. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, happiness and joy in adversity. Before we get into it, you know the deal around here. We have to do an and stand first. So, and it can be, as you know, your and that you're standing in today doesn't have to be topic related. So, how are you showing up today? What and are you standing in as we record on this dreary winter day?
I would say I'm standing in a double A, and I think that's appropriate because it's just like a double A battery, probably perhaps the most used battery that we use. And the double A for me is anticipation and accountability. I fully anticipate wrapping up a pretty good year professionally, stellar year personally. And as far as accountability, I have been involved professionally with a number of different initiatives, boards. Uh, the biggest one, of course, perhaps is the Association of Local Health Directors. And just really wanting to be accountable for my leadership, accountable for my actions as a leader this year, this year. This has been a year in which we've seen our craft, public health, under attack. Certain degrees that we hold near and dear are being dismissed, and just really the slow dismantling of what we love. And I think that it's time for us to stand and be accountable for our profession, for our communities, and for that thing that we love doing, which is helping communities to thrive and to preserve life itself.
Yeah, what a year, for sure. It's just striking to I'm so caught up in where we are and what we're doing on a day-to-day basis to just pause with that to say, it's December. We're coming up on it takes us a minute to put these out, so who knows what the month is when y'all hear this. I'm tempted to not tell you what actual day it is right now, just in case you're like, why did it take them a month to get this out? But it's the end of the year. And there's a lot to reflect on. I mean, it sounds like you've been quite busy stepping up in leadership. Not only, I mean, we were talking about this before we recorded, is I'm always inspired by folks who are not only leading in adversity and challenge in their what I'd call their regular job, but who are also stepping up to volunteer leadership in state associations and other capacities, which is it's just such an important time for that, to bring our collective energy and values and voices together, in this moment so that we can, remind each other and others, what we value and what matters and what we're trying to be about. So thank you for all of that.
Of course.
Uh, and stand for me today. I am standing in, I'm going to say, a tenderness and sturdiness. Um, I always get pondery and do some evaluation of myself and my work and my life and my energy at this time of year.
Hmm.
And with that comes sitting with the myself, right? Having to tell the truth, having to tell the truth to myself.
Accountability.
Right. Self accountability that then leads me to vulnerability and conversations that just feel really tender and, like my truth exposed.
Hmm.
And so I'm standing in some of that right now with myself and folks that are connected to that. So I think I'm feeling humbled by my humanity.
There you go.
We, I'm sure, have talked before. I'm a passionate person with a million interests and ideas. And I tend to start a lot and then realize that I'm still one person in a human body, that I can't sustain all those things. So I'm often in the dance between ideas and focus. And so there's just a tenderness that comes with that reality checking of my own capacity. And I'm sitting in that really freshly today. And so there's a tenderness, and I'm realizing it's kind of a quieter version of me when I'm kind of ripped it down like that.
Hmm.
And then a sturdiness. So sometimes vulnerability can feel like wobbly, like baby deer legs, or I think of like a hermit crab when it's finding a new shell, like really exposed.
Hmm.
But as I sit in this version of it, underneath it all feels really grounded and sturdy, which is nice to just notice in me that whatever I'm up to right now and however it feels is coming from a really centered place. Um, yeah, like underneath it all
Right.
is a sturdiness, and that feels nice to know that, because I don't think that's not always been true for
Right.
me.
Right.
So to be able to hold the and really to have the and not feel so pulled to one side of it,
Hmm.
because I could be pulled the other way too. I can feel sometimes sturdiness to me is not the kind of grounded sturdiness I was talking about. It's more armor.
Right.
It's kind of shelled up, like I've got this, I'm fine, it's fine, everything's fine.
Right.
It's more a shell like
Yeah.
of pretending
Yeah.
that's holding it all together in some manufactured way.
Yeah.
This feels like sturdiness from the ground. Um,
Rooted. Rooted.
Rooted.
Yeah.
Yes, rooted.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm good to stand in that. So
I
that's
like it.
that's what I'm up to. So let's swirl all that together and see where it gets us today. It'll be interesting. When I'm feeling more quiet, but the more I talk to you, the more kind of ramped up I get. So just kidding about that, maybe.
I have been known to be a good hype man.
Hype man, hype it up. Well, let's hype it up because we are going to talk about, back to your transition statement earlier. We decided that the and we wanted to stand in together today was joy and adversity.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, Rod, maybe to start this, I'll tell you, the more I think about this conversation, because we've talked about joy now for a while. You and I have been pondering about joy now for a minute. The more I think about it, the more I wonder if I really know what it is, which is an interesting place to find yourself as you host a conversation about joy. What does joy I mean, I could ask you about joy and then we get examples of what brings me joy. I wonder if it's like, what are we even talking about when we say joy and adversity? Maybe let's just define the words and then we can talk about the tension between them and I'll add some layers, but kick us off here. What does it mean?
I'd say joy for me to me is in a sense fulfillment.
Mm,
Um, it's that goal that has been accomplished. It's it could be you know um, doing what the wifey asked you to do, and seeing that you made her happy, and her being happy makes you happy. That brings you joy.
mm,
It could very well be um, in this period of reflection that we tend to go through this year, this time of the year, I should say.
mhm,
I'm thinking back to all the adversity that you traversed, the hurdles that you jumped over, the mountains that you had to climb, so to speak. And you're on the other side and you're happy, you find joy, but you're not afraid to turn around and check your six
mm.
and look back to see what all you have accomplished. Um, Joy could be that, that slow coffee in the morning that just hits
Come on.
just right. You're or
Everybody
to
in the audience who knows me is like that is what she only wants to talk about is slow coffee. So I'm not alone in this, people.
it could very well be that, particularly like, you got a hectic morning and you finally make it to the pot and you can slow down and you can enjoy it as you're reflecting or putting together your to-do list or just listening to, your favorite podcasts. Um, those things are, what brings me joy, or what I consider to be joy.
I think that's interesting that the first thing you said in that trail was around fulfillment. Because I think when we think about joy, it feels sparkly.
Hmm.
It feels a little more jingle bells and Christmas lights and dance party.
Hmm.
Now, nothing brings me joy quite like a dance party, so that also is true for me. And increasingly, as I think about this, joy has, and maybe it has different, I don't know, different moods. Is joy moody? Because to me, there is a fun part. There is like, oh, that was a fun time as a family decorating the tree and seeing everybody. You mentioned your wife. Seeing other people happy brings me joy. So that the context of that is jubilant. So there's that piece of it. And though slow coffee on the porch, contentedness,
Hmm.
I am satisfied. And I sink into when I say it that way, it feels like a sinking in back to rooted. I think last time we talked, I was like, joy feels like roots.
Yes.
And when I say that, I think joy makes it points me to, and I guess joy is an emotion, so it's more what are the things that activate that in me. But connection, I think maybe is the heart of it for me, and that could be connection to other people.
Hmm.
It could be connection and presence in a moment, or deep connection to myself. So I just love kind of the stretching out of joy conceptually. Again, who if there are emotion researchers listening to this podcast, I'm quite sure I'm offending you on a regular basis because all of these words have real life definitions and I'm probably talking about 5 different things at once right now.
Forgive
But
us.
this is forgive us because this is a podcast about our own lived experience. Um, so yeah, joy to me, there is a happiness piece of it, and there's a contented, satisfied piece of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
What we know it's not is toxic positivity.
It's not. We don't prescribe to that.
No, we're not saying, like, paint a layer of glitter sunshine over all of this. So, there's our quick take on what we mean when we say joy, and then we'll talk more about that. And then adversity, phew, is just I mean, to me, I have a whole bucket of hard that I put in there.
Yeah.
Personal challenge, work challenge, life challenge, hard stuff, stress, context. To me, it can be crisis, and I think there's a lot of, could pull this out if it hits a little bit different to me, whether we're in, the event is happening right now, like the hurricane is here today
Yes.
adversity, like there's that immediate crisis adversity,
Right.
and there, kind of life season adversity,
Mhm.
chapters of adversity, and there's the day-to-day stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's anything you would add to that, but to me, when I say adversity, I'm, like, making space for all that.
I echo those sentiments because, um, it could very well be long-term sustained adversity.
Mhm,
It could be, you know, just that hurricane. It could be that natural event. It could be that ailment from a loved one that,
mhm.
hopefully it's not, long term. It can be fixed or can be healed. So, adversity comes, in my opinion, to make you stronger and to eventually bring you joy.
Mm,
Because if you have been able to get through the tough times, been able to get through those sad seasons of life that are just really filled with adversity, you come out on the other side so much better.
so is that let's let's talk more about that connectivity. For you, when we think about the "and" of joy and adversity, that the relationship between them is joy is on the other side of adversity?
It is my belief, yeah, it is.
Um, I'm not gonna push back on
So,
that.
come on.
I am going to add a layer
All right. We're
of
going to add a layer.
curiosity.
All right.
Because I know you, I think also you might say, well, let me not guess. I'll say for me, for a long time, I thought joy was the finish line.
Hmm.
It is my belief now that joy is also, maybe not instead, is also the fuel, not the finish line.
Hmm.
It's the all along the way buoyancy,
Hmm.
um, right? Sprinkles of joy, because I also don't it's not my sense experience that joy is a like any emotion, there's none of it is a steady state. We're always this sort of kaleidoscope of changing things.
Hmm.
So for me, joy is fuel for the journey. And then I get nervous when I hear myself say that it makes it seem like joy's job is to just get us somewhere. And I think it helps get us somewhere, and also that it gets to just exist on its own
Hmm.
as a part of human flourishing that we all get to have. Like, even not if not en route to something, like, just because like, when I say joy is roots, I think it's in moments where I just feel connected to life. Not to get too meta about it, but, like, "Oh, I'm lifing."
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, there's a presence. So maybe to me, joy is both has a presence, and it also creates when I think of the coming together adversity and joy, it's like joy helps give me buoyancy through hard time.
Right.
Not only is it also on the other side.
Okay.
So that's my curiosity is, Do you feel that too? Like, I feel like you're one of the most joyful people I know, so I feel like you're kind of you have a relationship with joy in an ongoing way, not necessarily just on the other side of adversity way. Does that feel true?
I think it is, and I won't push.
Do it. Let's
I will
go.
I will add a layer to that, and that layer is I think it comes both personally when you think personally about joy, when you think professionally about joy, it comes with adversity and going through things and mastering the
Hmm.
pain, mastering the season, mastering whatever you're going to get to the joy. And I add the layer of mastery because if you have been through something a number of times, you become so familiar with it to where you recognize that familiarity and you do your best
Hmm.
to know what to do and to do the right thing and you master it. But I would just say when you have the adversity and the mastery layered into it,
Yeah.
for me personally,
Yeah.
joy comes in recognizing that I have mastered this situation. I have
Interesting.
I have been there, done it for this. You know, as a 50 plus year old man, I read something the other day that told me that I should have joy because I have spent half a century
Hmm.
surviving.
I mean, right?
And as a and as a survivor of a number of
All of
different
it.
calamities of all of it, then, to a certain degree, I have mastered a certain amount of lifing, if you will.
Lifing. Yeah, so the layer you're adding here to me feels like I mean, I keep coming back to your language from the very early of this is around fulfillment, like that there's a satisfaction that comes from experience
Mhm.
and feeling like because it certainly it resonates for me. I don't know if I connected joy to it, but so let me just see where this thought trail gets me
Sure.
is, just the value and the wisdom that comes with time.
Mhm.
I'm not 50 yet, but I'm close.
Mhm.
And the experience, right? Part of I talk a lot about courage calluses as like things that build over time, and it's not exactly related to this, but it's something about challenge and the showing up and the leading through, the living through, the loving through challenge that
Mhm.
build experience is a powerful teacher. And
Mhm.
so, then as you experience adversity later, you have, different tools in the toolkit than when you're, first starting out. So, um, certainly adversity changes. I feel that feels true to me. Is things are challenging in different ways over time. And then I think what you're saying is there's some satisfaction in that experience. Like it feels joy. You feel joy in the noticing of that growth. It sounds like that yeah, it's personal growth, I think I would
One
say.
100%. And then I'll give you another example. Um, you have loved ones or professional colleagues that are in that dark season. They're going through.
Yeah.
And that's just another term. That's just another colloquialism for I'm going through adversity. I'm going
Mhm.
through an adverse time. But they recognize that in you, there is somebody who has joy,
Mm.
who has the silver, the, s- the sparkles in their beard and their mustache. They may know a little something, and then they come to you to seek help for that adversity, that this stuff they're going through. And the mastery part comes in that, like, been there, done that, man. Let me tell you. And you're able to dispense that wisdom. And in doing so and going back and reflecting and recollecting, you're smiling. You
Hmm.
you have a certain sense of joy because once again, you're turning around and you're thinking back to like those times when you went through it. And now you're actually able to not only reflect and smile, but you're actually able to help your fellow man or woman to go through that time. And you encourage them to say, this too shall pass. Here are the
Hmm.
things that I think you need to do in order to get to the other side.
Yeah, so 2 things stand out to me in that, Rod. One is, again, it's interesting to really settle into the "and" of joy and adversity because you have all this sort of process-related joys as it relates to navigating adversity, so that it feels like it brings fulfillment and joy to help others when you have some experience in it that you can then offer guidance and wisdom to others brings fulfillment and joy to you.
Indeed.
And then the first thing you said about, when we're going through tough times and we see someone else who is in their joy,
Mhm.
the immediate image that I got was the notion of like a lighthouse. Now, I'm in the mountains. We don't have lighthouses here, but maybe, would you say are you from would you Savannah?
Charleston.
Charleston.
Yeah.
So that's more coastal. Maybe you're
Mhm.
connected to this lighthouse vision. But this notion that I think it's a lovely, thought for me to imagine that being in my joy, I could somehow be a lighthouse for somebody else. And I don't know if that is, I mean, check me on this if that, metaphor works as, or a mirror, it's like a reflection back or or a reminder that light also when we feel like we are in the dark
Yes,
and you see light, it sometimes is just a reminder, like, "Oh, there is light somewhere."
there is.
What feels As I say that, what comes up in me too is the experience of sometimes feeling like I am light and I am joy and someone else is not. I feel a little like, "Ooh, let me not shine too bright." Like,
Mhm,
I don't know if it's guilt, I don't know what it is, but, like, this it's okay to be okay.
mhm.
It's okay to not be okay, and it's
Mm,
okay to be okay.
right.
Not only to honor that that's your experience, but what you're offering to me right now is, "Oh, what if not only is it okay for me to be okay and kind of stand in my light if that's how I'm feeling, like, what if also by doing that, I can be a lighthouse to somebody else?"
Indeed, indeed. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I think that, there's nothing wrong with, recognizing that you've been through some tough times, you have that experience, and, it's it's sort of a glow of humility.
A glow of
Humility.
humility?
Humility.
Mm,
And that you're not you're coming to meetings, organizations, confident, but your light is shining because you have joy, because you have confidence within yourself and your abilities. You have something to contribute. And it it's that glow or that joy or that smile or that demeanor that really attracts folks. Like, why is this guy so happy?
mm.
what's going
What's
what's
going on with him?
wrong with him? Like he seems unbothered about anything, and these are some tough times that we're going through. It's like the walls are caving in, and then you almost feel like a lighthouse. You're attracted to that. Like, I want to know what it is, especially if time after time, consistently, this person seems to be the exact same way.
And do you know what I think would happen? So if I showed up like a lighthouse to a meeting and somebody came to me and said, "Heather, what are you doing? Like, what vitamins are you taking? What's the secret?" Right? How are you so unbothered? I think what I would say to them is, "Oh, don't be confused.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is not I am unbothered. it almost to me, Rod, is like, and I might touch into to grief, which feels a little bit off topic, but to me, I think I am so joyful and light because of my willingness to turn toward the dark,
Right.
right? I am quite bothered often, and it almost like, as I sink into that, it somehow there's a the adversity and the joy, or the sad and the hard and the light, are all so tangled yin yang for me that one often leads me to the other.
Hmm.
So it's almost because I am in relationship with both deeply, I get that light part. So it's very always and for me. I think
Hmm.
about loss a lot. I think about sad stuff a lot. I cry a lot. And almost, I just wonder, joy is such an intense, vulnerable emotion. I wonder if they're all kind of locked up and live there together. So you kind of got to just get in there with whatever it is and know that that is there too. And to me, sometimes is I have to get to that really surrender and sink into that really tender place and kind of feel the heartbreak of just the temporary nature of all of this. Life is quite heartbreaking to me the way this whole arrangement works, that then leads me to just pure joy and contentment at how beautiful the sky is today,
Totally agree.
and how
Totally.
delicious that cookie is, and how fulfilled I feel like I get to be a human in a body on a planet. And I don't know if if it would feel that intense for me, the joy part, if I wasn't also connected. So for anybody who's wondering if they wanna come to me and ask me how I'm unbothered, I'll save you the visit to say I am quite bothered, and, um, yeah, feel that fulfillment and that joy all together when it's really honest.
Yes, I would say
Uh,
yes. And
I
again,
don't know that I'm like, I'm like, can't wait to hear that rabbit trail rambling when I listen back to the tape again.
nah, but I think that it wasn't rambling. I think it was
Okay.
you really unpacking, you know, that beautiful thought. And I'll just say, I totally agree. You cannot have one without the and the other. You do. But I will say, as a woman who has many lived experiences, you learn to embrace both, or
Yep, yep,
multiple
yep.
versions of it, because it's a part of living.
Yeah, this is what, and y'all, this is my obsession with this podcast. This is why we're doing this. Is so much of it, I think, just reflects to me the truth of the human experience. And I think sometimes we get stuck in the and.
Hmm.
Sometimes we get stuck because it feels like things are, really are in conflict. Where get most stuck in this is when I feel like it should be or feel a certain way different than it actually does.
Hmm.
When I feel, um, when I notice joy and am in really stress or tension context, either for me or for others, I'm like, feel shame. I think shame can block joy. So when I feel a way that gets in the way of joy and I can't allow it, that's where some of the stickiness comes. Um, or just in a really heavy time where, the adversity is of the consuming nature,
Hmm.
that I don't have access to it. I don't know whether it's I don't have the time or the energy to surrender to it or to find it. I don't know if it's an allowing, if it's a noticing of more quiet joys. Um, So that's a curiosity for me is times where I feel like I'm more heavy in fully noticing adversity and I can't see joy.
Hmm.
It makes me wanna have a little journal prompt just to go 'cause I'm a fan of, like, I'm a big journaler of writing directly to be like, "Dear Joy, are you here? Knock, knock," like, "Are you with me?" And see what Joy would say if it's like, "I'm always there,"
Right.
you
Right.
know? "Remember when the coffee this morning was great or how much you love these pink corduroy pants you have on?" Like, maybe it's little, it's smaller. And I guess part of that is why does it matter? Like, who cares? Um,
I think it. I
why does
would.
it yeah, why does it matter?
I think it matters because I remember as a young executive, um, I did not realize how my joy and my temperament affected so many different people.
Mhm.
It wasn't until an, em- one of my employees came to me and said, "Is everything cool? Are you all right?" I was like, "Yeah, I am." And they're like, "Good," because you do know, like when you come in the morning, that sets the tone
Mm,
for the entire C-suite. And it blew me away. I was like, "Me?" They're like, "Yeah, you. You're the one we see all the time. You're the one we come to. You're the one who's like really kind of moderating the meetings. It's you." And I was like, it really blew me away. And I said, okay, I really need to watch myself. So therefore, again, the joy and sadness, joy and anger, joy and disappointment.
mhm.
But what I've chosen is joy in the workplace because the culture of the workplace is so important to success. It's so important to having an environment of healing as we need in public health and healthcare. So it's important to really emphasize and really embrace the joy part of being an executive.
Mhm.
So therefore, like when you get inside these extra auxiliary boards and doing all this other stuff, um, we can have a year like we've had this year, where I don't know how many different shoes have dropped. Many shoes have dropped. But what's the one thing that we have? We have each other
Yep.
and we have joy because we know that we're going to get through this. And I tell people all the time, like, how many months and years and hours and days of sustained bewilderment, exhaustion did we go through with the pandemic?
Yeah.
It was just, we will never get that back. But now, I submit to you, when you look back on it now, what do? You laugh, you sigh, you think about the many glasses of wine that you consumed,
Right.
whatever you did, but now you look back on it, you're just like, "You got through
When you feel I mean, it's a lot. I mean, there's a lot when we reflect back on pandemic, but the piece of it again, and I think you bring up this fulfillment, it sounds, this contentedness that you have with, um, being on the other side of it, adversity, and I guess this sense of when you say that, "We know we'll get through this,"
that." Mhm.
I think I'm like, "Do we know?" Like, how do we really know? But it to me is I guess all of it is everything is temporary.
Totally.
Um, and that's tricky for me. I think I feel yeah. I mean, that's an interesting and there's so much I could take that down a path around trust and all sorts of things. But you said we have each other and we have joy. And to me, those things live together. I mean, part of, and I said this earlier, is joy to me is connection. So if anything, and I think speaking of whether it's pandemic or hurricane or others, I think when you think about what builds resilience, we know this, whether it's early childhood or on, is what builds our resilience is meaningful, healthy connection. And so connection gives us buoyancy.
It does.
It gives us joy in a moment. It feels good to me. It feels rooted and connected to me and also helps me through the adversity. So that's another one where they're just living right there together. To
Indeed.
circle back what you said about being a leader in this space, um, what came to mind for me when you said being mindful of, and I think for all of, yeah, the energy that you bring into a room. I think our energy is more contagious than we realize.
It does.
But this idea, and I think a lot about it as a facilitator, because so often, right, I'm bringing the group together, and my energy helps set the container for what the thing is that we're going to do. And this language, I don't know where this came from, but of being, what is it? Being a thermostat, not a thermometer,
Nice.
right? The thermostat is I'm going to set the temperature.
Hmm.
The thermometer is I'm just gonna take the temperature and kinda be what the temperature is. So when I hear you say, like, being mindful that I'm gonna help set I'm the thermometer no, thermostat. I'm the thermostat to help set the tone, um, not just kind of take it as it is. So that's what comes up for me there and it's an interesting place. So anybody sitting in this, because I think that's a tricky dance
Right.
because I think it can feel like a mismatch if you're in an agency who's really going through a hard time or in a field really going through a hard time and you come in, um, full Care Bear stare, rainbow bright energy, it can feel off tone of
Right.
like, is he looking at what I'm looking at? Is he understand what's happening? So this dance of holding joy and adversity together, telling the truth about those things, is a really, fragile's not the right word, a really kind of special intentionality, I think,
Indeed.
of how do I help elevate, and hold the energy of the space where I think is appropriate for where we are. What I also think that does, like I said before, sometimes when we're going through tough, it's hard to feel like it's okay to have joy and lightness. So it's a bit of a permission slip signing too for others to go, yeah, we're in hard times. And also, we're still having the birthday bingo celebration on Friday at lunch, and we're doing our all staff picnic, and we're going to right take breaks for connection and joy
Gotta
and
do.
fun in the midst of this. So, just
Gotta do
I
it.
think there's a lot leaders can do just in the permissioning and the allowing and encouraging and the honoring that of where people are in that, and that joy feels really like that doesn't feel fun and joy aren't the same, I don't think. So that thing you're doing doesn't really feel joyful for me. It's just it's I think it's more nuanced and trickier than we probably give it credit for.
It gets very tricky. I would agree with you wholeheartedly.
And something it sounds like you're giving a lot of intention to. Any other things, Rod, when we think about the trickiness, in particular, I think a lot of listeners are in a work context, whether they're leaders or just on teams, as we experience and honoring our own humanity too. But as we think about how we navigate that, like, are there any other tips or tools that we want to share? Oh, can I reflect one back from a prior conversation that we've had that I think
Sure.
really stuck with me about something that you said is around slowing down.
Absolutely.
Remind me how slowing down is connected to this conversation.
Slow and steady. Actually, since the last time we conversed, I added another one. I added calm, slow, and steady.
Calm.
Calm, slow, and steady. I do believe that individuals, regardless of what industry you're in, they tend to respond better to someone who is calm,
Hmm.
who knows how to compose themselves. I mean, not to say that, you don't have your frantic moments,
Right.
but but for the most part, when you have a calm demeanor, when there's a certain serenity about you to where folks seek you out because all heck is breaking loose and they just need somebody who has a very steady approach to getting things done.
Mm,
So I said, okay, calm is cool. But slow and steady has always been my mantra in that you always want to make sure that you take the time to really spare no details. You slowly move into things. You continue to be that steady hand. I think one of the biggest compliments I received from my work in the pandemic is I was categorized as being the steady hand of public health in Durham County. So that meant that I could be counted on. That meant that I would always show up and I would show up correctly. That also meant that, again, I was that reliable voice of public health to get people, out of a very fearful time.
mhm,
So, and not meaning to bring up the pandemic all the time, but again, it's so real, and
mhm,
we still have PTSD. So
mhm.
with that, slow and steady has been something that I've embraced both personally and professionally. I'm going to take my time with my relationships. I'm going to have a steady approach to the work that I do. It's not all about it's all about getting things done, but not necessarily it's quick, and leaving out pertinent details. It's all about making sure that you do things the right way
Mm.
in an effort to ensure that when you look back, you left nothing out, you spared no details, and you could really have a greater appreciation for your work. That's that's been that's been my approach, and in doing so, a lot of joy. I receive a lot of joy from it.
I th
Folk, go ahead.
Sorry.
You're fine.
I'll let you finish.
No,
Otherwise,
you're
I'm
good.
just like, "Yes, that." I Do you wanna finish? You want me to go?
Wow, you're good. You're good. You're good.
I get excited. It just feels so true to me, the connection between in particular with joy. 'Cause I wonder, like, just to hold that up next to it, my nervous system in adversity wants to move very quickly.
Mhm.
The churn right, the churn of stress, the stress response, the fear, anxiety, all of that is very fast moving. And if we put joy next to it, and I think about when I experience joy, it's when I can or am or have the opportunity to feel safe enough to surrender and sink into a slower way of being. And I find so much more when my brain and my body can catch up, my thoughts can get so far out of myself, and I think joy to me is everything's in one place. It's all
Mhm.
my head, my heart, myself are all in one place.
Right.
We've talked about slow coffee, connection with others,
Mhm.
even joy in work. When I think about joy in work, when I find most joy in work, I find great joy as a facilitator in connecting with other people. That is a very present, happening right now, can't be fast because it is here kind of way.
Mhm.
That's easier for me to get into because something about being in person with people demands presence to
Right.
keep up with all that. Where I have to be more mindful of it is when I'm doing desk stuff, like
Mhm.
computery, working on things. Um, when I'm, too scattered or I'm trying to do an email and a piece of a document and this and this. But when I can really settle into it and get into flow, that is the place where I find fulfillment. And it is from a slower pace. And I think you and I share this sentiment that it's not slow in lieu of, like, there's an urgency about our work,
Mhm.
and because of that, the slow. Not
Yes.
instead of, not I'm just gonna be slow and the problems will work themselves out, but it's like because they are what they are, the adversity is so intense, this this slower, deliberate attentiveness, quality you've mentioned lives there,
Mhm.
and then the fulfillment of the product of that work. So to me, it's twofold. It's the product that comes out from that brings me more fulfillment and the experience of it. The sitting there doing it feels different when I can focus, which requires a slower and steady, um, way of being. So
Yeah.
I just feel like that's I appreciate that layer.
And even for our listening audience, you know, bringing the and to them and our listening audience. Um, think about those times coming or those times in the past when everyone's gone for Christmas holiday and you decide or you pull the bad straw and you got to work, but the place is empty and you can slowly get into your work. You find that you're just so productive because there's nobody bothering you.
Mm.
You can ease into that report. You can look at that strategic plan and just think, we took our time and we did that thing. And now, we're monitoring it and things are coming along. I mean, it is a whole different type of working in the month of December. It really is.
Yeah, and just a shout out to all the folks who, so many of us get a big piece of time off to be with family and to decorate trees and do things. And a lot of our listeners, um, on the health and healthcare side are the ones who are gonna be in the ER if we need them that day,
You
are the
did.
ones who are taking care of everything to make sure that we have food safety in the places that we're going. So just a big appreciation as you mentioned that for folks who really are sinking in on our collective, behalf. So yeah, I guess to wrap this, we got to start to wrap this up. On my side, I'm thinking about the importance of in the slowness, maybe just the noticing. And it's interesting, Rod, as I think now that we do several podcasts, I'm like, am I kind of saying the same tools over and over, or are the tools really different across the ands? And one thing I know I'm talking about a lot is noticing.
Hmm.
Like noticing what's like permission to let be what is.
Yes.
And yes, maybe you're working on something really challenging and it feels fulfilling to be able to sit there and really dedicate yourself fully to it and like letting that also be with you.
Hmm.
Um, being in tricky response and laughing with colleague, like just like letting the complexity and the nuance be there, honoring that that is true.
Yes.
And then another one that's I know I'm talking about every time is curiosity. So curiosity around what joy means to you, how you cultivate that, what role does it play, to the extent that it helps provide buoyancy for you, certainly permission to do that. Leaders have a big role to play, I think. We talk a lot around here about pause and, are we creating cultures on our teams where we're making space for that part too? Um, and then certainly mindfulness around, as leaders. Um, Yeah, the space we hold. And I guess that, I think the last thing for me is a noticing or a curiosity around permission maybe for joy to be what it is for you. I think a lot of time I for a while was like, I'm not a fun person is a story I had in my head.
Hmm.
Like I'm just not a fun person because I thought fun was
Hey,
looked
sorry.
a certain way. Um, I don't say that anymore. But kind of, this I'm not a joyful person. Maybe, like, you might have of, like, "Oh, because I'm not that bubbly." Like, I don't think that's kinda to interrogate what our stories are around this.
Right.
Um, I don't think it's about I'm smiling and unbothered all the time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or does it mean I am joyful only? I can hold joy and be bothered. I can hold joy and feel disappointed. So,
Yes.
yeah, an invitation to see where else joy can
But also an
but
invitation
is
to, also for me, an invitation to allow joy to supersede all of the above. There's nothing wrong
mm.
with that. There's nothing
Say that
wrong with that.
again. To supersede all of the above.
Supersede all of the above. Like if
Lead with
you're
it.
if you're frustrated, if you're angry, just know that there's joy in there. And don't allow that anger, that frustration, that disappointment to overshadow,
Mm.
to supersede your joy.
Oof. All right, fine. Challenge accepted. Because I'm quite sure even in situations where I would tell you that they're both with me, I'm not sure Joy gets the microphone.
That's what I'm saying. That's the challenge,
The
you know?
challenge is, can I give yeah. Hmm.
Open mic with joy.
Open mic night for Joy. And immediately some resistance in me comes up in that. So that's so interesting because I so much want to honor and have the adversity and those in it around me feel seen in their experience too. That's something really interesting for me to play not play with, but kind of notice and tend to. But this notion of joy, because we're not ever all feeling any of it all the time necessarily. So what is my not responsibility, but opportunity when I do feel joy to let it be a lighthouse
Right,
as as an opportunity, as a truth, not an apology.
right. I like that.
That's what I'm gonna sit with, I think, is, yeah, as a reminder. I don't know, that's a lot. See? I'm like, the more we talk, the less I know about any about any of it, which is exciting to me because this is what I wanted to do with this podcast. I'm like, I just gather my friends to talk to me about stuff that helps reveal the complexity of the human experience that sometimes is a lot messier and sometimes a lot more straightforward than I am letting it be.
What a nice chat this has been.
What a nice chat. I appreciate you being up to come chat with me on, again, end of year reflection time. I appreciate everybody else too who is willing to be on the ride with us. I am very curious for those who are listening, especially if people who are like, really tracking with us episode after episode. So you know a little bit what we're up to here. I'm starting to map out 2026 and think about what do y'all want to talk about? What ands are you really wrestling with? Where are you finding yourself stuck in a tension that you're not sure how to navigate? I will never promise you that I have answers. I will just honor that I'm willing to dig in and invite somebody else to dig in. I will say to y'all that I think we're going to do some stuff a little bit different coming into 2026 and have a couple of um, kind of folks that I would call experts in the human behavior, psychology, neuroscience space too, to offer some perspectives and reflections. So that'll be a fun new twist. But would love to hear from y'all about what resonates, what you want us to talk about and ponder, because I do, for those of you who know me, it's like this was a grand experiment to say, I'm going to give it to the end of this year and then we'll see. But I'm loving it. So we do intend to carry this forward into 2026. So I'd look forward to hearing from y'all about what your ideas are. You know how to find us. All the stuff is in the show notes. Yeah, look forward to hearing from you. Rod, thank you again.
My pleasure. Glad to
Hap-
be here.
Happy holidays to you and your
Happy
family.
happy holidays to you and the Gates family.
Thank you. I hope it's filled with slow coffee and moments of joy. Thank you for your leadership. Look forward to having you out there. Public health needs all of us.
Indeed, we appreciate you as well.
Thanks, Rod. Take care. Bye, everybody. The Stand in the And podcast is supported by Human Centered Strategy, where we help leaders and teams build connection and strategy and complexity so that everyone can flourish. To learn more or to work with us, please visit us online at humancenteredstrategy.com or message me on LinkedIn.